What's up, my friend? I'm going to talk to you today about how to pick your dream client. This is something that I see so many people struggle with. They get it wrong. They pick somebody who doesn't have any money, or they're not clear on who they want to work with, or they try to go way too broad so they can't talk to specifically to that person and their problem, so they don't connect in the same way with them as they could. So let's talk about it. Some other words for dream client is avatar or ideal client or ideal customer avatar, things of that nature. It's all the same stuff. Let's talk about how you pick the right person to work with. And the first thing I want to say is you want to pick someone who has pain and money to pay. So they have pain, they have a desire, like either pain comes from either having something that you don't want, which is what we call a problem, or you don't have something that you do want, which is what we call a desire, right? So there is either a desired outcome they want or some kind of problem that they have, and they want to fix that, right? They want to get rid of the thing that they have that they don't want. They want to get the thing that they want that they don't have. So with that, you want to pick someone who has enough pain and someone who has money to pay you. Another problem that I see a lot of people do is they're like, well, I really want to help these people who are really struggling, and I get that. I totally get that. I'm there too. I have this vision of what we could do with homeless shelters and getting people off the drugs and getting them to be part of an economy, of a community, and really, I think contributing and growing yourself is one of the best ways out of stuff, and But it's they're not going to be able to pay me anything, right? So in order for me to do that, I need to actually build a business where I make a bunch of money so that I can hire people, so that I have a lot of free time. And so now I can invest that free time and that money into something that helps people who are really struggling and can't afford to pay for it. So that's how we do it. So you got to work with clients who have money to pay, that you love working with. And then from there, you can use those resources to help people who can't afford it. That's how that works. So oftentimes, why is it doing that? How do we get this one bigger? Why does it do this small version of this screen? I don't know. I don't know why it does that. All right, here we go. Oftentimes, your dream client will be you from the past. So it'll be someone that is just like you were a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with the hero's journey. Oh my God. Now I want to go on this. Let me share with you. So I have this whole, I call it Simplero Clients OS that I developed, which has like all kinds of components that I've discovered over the years. And I think this might be in Simplero UOS. And these are all free. If you want to copy, just let me know. If you want a link to where this is, I share them with everyone for free so that you can see. I think we've got, I just went on a tangent. I do this, I'm sorry, but I wanted to find, where is the hero's journey? Here's this hero's journey. So you're probably familiar with the hero's journey. I snatched this graphic from somewhere, but I love it. So the hero's journey is this idea that you probably heard about it, right? So it's Joseph Campbell is the one that made it famous, where he was saying, well, this is the monomyth. This is the myth behind every story. And then George Lucas discovered this when he created Star Wars, and he kind of built Star Wars around this idea. And it was what made Star Wars this massive success. It wasn't the only thing, obviously, but it was a major contributing factor. So the whole idea, you don't need to look at all of these. We can simplify it down, but the idea is that you're going along, living your life, and then something happens. Like you get a diagnosis from the doctor that says you've got like 3 weeks left to live, or your spouse leaves you, or you get fired from your job, or something happens. And this is the call to adventure. This is your call to adventure. I don't think you can see oh, there we go. Call to adventure. And then the first thing that happens is you refuse the call. We're like, oh, damn it, I don't want to go. But then we're forced to. So we meet the mentor, we cross the threshold into the special world, and we learn all this new stuff, how to take care of our health and how to eat healthy and exercise and mindset or whatever, build a business, whatever it is. You learn the things through the mentors, and there are tests and allies and enemies, and there you have to go to the innermost cave, and you have to face the shadow self. You have to face something in yourself, right? And then there is the ultimate boon and refusals, and you're like, I don't want to go back, but you have to go back, and then you come back and you return with the special knowledge that now you can help others in this same situation. This is the story of all of us. There's always a hero's journey, and then once you accomplish that, once you complete the first hero's journey, there's a next and a next and a next and a next, and it keeps on going on. That's why I talk about the second hero's journey, because for you as a coach or consultant or course creator or whatever it is, you've done the first hero's journey, and now you're on your second hero's journey where you're like, oh crap, I gotta learn how to build a business around this. And most people are like in denial, and they're back to refusal of the call. They're like, I just want someone to do this for me. Can I just get someone to come and build this for me? And I'm like, no, you can't. Like, you gotta do this. You gotta do this. You gotta master it yourself. So anyway, we're back to the who. So oftentimes the who is gonna be you before you did your journey, before you did your hero's journey, right? So it'll be someone who's just like you were before your hero's journey. Another big point is, like, you get to choose who you want to work with. A lot of people come into this with this scarcity mindset that says, there aren't enough clients, and what if I can never find the right client, and like blah, 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 blah. That's BS. There's plenty of people, unless you pick some like crazy niche. If you're doing a decent price point, like $3,000, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, or whatever the equivalent in your currency, in your market, you don't need a lot of clients. There doesn't have to be a ton of them. There just has to be enough, right? So you get to choose who you most want to work with, who are the ones that you love working with, that energizes you, right? You get to define the criteria for how to do business with you. Like, you're like, I work with people who have this and this and this in place, and then I help them knock it out of the park on this. I've hired in my time a ton of consultants who didn't have this. And so I would hire them to do something for me in my business, but I didn't have the prerequisites, and they didn't check if I did. And so the consulting, I've spent like probably way over hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants who didn't check with me if I actually had what was needed for them to do their work. And so we spent all this time and all this money and basically got nothing out of it. So be clear on what you need from people to have, and have them qualify in order to work with you, because then you're sure that you can deliver results, and that means you're going to get great testimonials and great case studies, and that is proof which is invaluable in your marketing. Another big mistake that I see people make is that they're like, well, I can work with anybody, everybody needs this, like training, working out, or eating healthy, or whatever. It's like, yeah, but everybody needs this. Yes, they do. But if they don't have the desire, you have nothing to work with. You got to work with people who already have a desire for what it is that you offer, what it is that you help them with, the problem, the outcome. They have a desire to get rid of the problem. They have a desire to get the outcome. If they don't have that, it's too much work to generate that desire in people in order to make them clients, right? They have to already want to solve the problem or achieve the outcome. Otherwise, it doesn't pay for you. So have that be part of your dream client as well. They're aware that they have the pain, they want to solve it, and they want to solve it now, and they want to get help. Okay? Classic thing, if you're a coach, working with people who already work with coaches is way better and easier than trying to be the first coach than someone hires. People who start using coaches tend to hire more coaches. I have a bunch of them. I've worked with a bunch over my lifetime, but hiring the first one was really scary, right? There's a lot of internal talk, a lot of convincing. Then once I took the plunge, and this was in 2005 or 6 or something, so 20 years ago when I hired my first coach, and I was like, oh shit, this is really effective. This is really amazing. Actually, now that I think of it, it was in 2001 or 2000 maybe. I think it was 2001 that I hired my first coach. I was like, this is amazing. And so that was the bridge. And then it was much easier to have the next and the next and the next and the next. Don't aim to be the first. There's like the first personal trainer or whatever. You don't need to be their first, whatever you do for them. It's easier to hire someone who already does it. Someone who reads books buys more books. Someone who's never read a book, it's hard to get them to read their first book. Do you see what I'm saying? Important. Ask yourself this: if you could only get paid after your client gets the result that you deliver, who would you most want to work with? That's a really good question to think about, right? Who would you most want to work with if you could only get paid after they get the result? So that means they would have to be coachable. They would have to be willing to do the work. They'd have to be invested enough just on their own without having money as skin in the game in order to take action to get the result. Because if they don't get the result, you don't get paid, right? And them getting the result is not just dependent on you. It's also dependent on them. They need to have the resources. They need to be ready. They need to have the time. Or maybe they need to buy other stuff, or maybe they need to have a validated offer and already be spending at least $10,000 a month on Facebook ads, or whatever it is that is your criteria. Figure out what it is so that if you could only get paid after they get the results that you promise, you would gladly do it. What would have to be in place? Figure this out, all right? Picking a group that's easy to target, like real estate agents, doctors, like that makes your life easier, right? If there are already newsletters to this particular group, or like you can find them with job titles on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff, that's pretty easy. My audience of coaches is a little bit more amorphous. You can't just buy a list of coaches. A lot of them are very small. But if they're like, doctor's offices, you can get a list of those and just call them, right? Or target them some other way. There's trade journals, trade shows, whatever for these. So if you can, that makes life easier. You don't have to, but that does make life easier. Thankfully now with algorithms and paid ads and social media algorithms, it's much easier to reach the audience that you want more specifically. Thanks to the algorithms that's going to find the right people for you, but it just makes it easier. Another thing to consider is people who can make a quick buying decision. So, if it takes people a long time, like certain enterprises going to take a long time to make a purchase decision, like months and months, everything else being equal, is way better to work with someone who can make a quick decision and just be on their way, right? So you don't need to spend a lot of time in sales calls and protracted conversations, and just the time from, if you run ads, the time from you pay for the ad till you actually win the client, if that window is too long, well, then it's going to take you a long time to make that money back. And in the meantime, you're out, right? You're in the negative, in the reds, and you don't know if it's going to come back yet. So if we can compress that time to purchase, then that's so much better. When we get to ad strategy, if you can compress the time from the ad till you making that money back, the return on ad spend, to less than 30 days, that means you can finance it on credit cards for free, which is awesome. We talked about someone who that you can get great results. What has to be true there is also a question of who's going to be easy and fun and frictionless and not a hassle to work with. Yeah, you don't have to work with annoying clients. There's plenty of people out there who are not annoying. Work with the people who are not annoying and that you love working with. So it's fun. Life's supposed to be fun, including business. Business is supposed to be fun too, right? So pick a dream client that's actually going to be easy and fun to work with. And finally, a growing market is better, right? So if you're selling to people who are in a dying industry, then the market's shrinking every year. It's going to be harder and harder to grow that market. It's better to find a market that's actually growing and latch yourself onto that. In terms of qualifications, it's worth thinking about not just what do they need to have in place in order for them to be a perfect client for you, but also what do they have to believe? What do they have to believe about the method? You probably have a special way that you solve this problem for people. What do they have to believe about that? Maybe you're doing keto. What do they have to believe about keto? Yeah? Those are things that are worth thinking about like, what do they have to believe in order to be a perfect client for you? For two reasons. One, you can suss it out in your enrollment, however that is, like do they believe this? You can ask them questions about that to make sure that they are actually going to enjoy working with you and that you're going to enjoy working with them, right? If you're working on health and you're very much into nutrition and natural remedies, and you find someone that's really into, traditional modern medicine and pharma drugs and just believes fully in that, then that's an important belief system to suss out so that you don't waste your time on the person like that. It's going to be frustrating for both of you, right? The second thing is that you can use your organic content and your retargeting content and other content to install those beliefs in people, to transfer it. Install sounds so sinister here, but really to share how you came to believe what you believe, so that that's going to convince certain other people to believe the same thing now, and now they're more likely to want to work with you and more likely to be a perfect fit dream client for you. So that is the essence of how to pick your dream client. The more specific you are on the avatar, like a soccer mom of like boys at age 6 to 15 or whatever, like the more specific you are on the kind of dream client that you want to work with, the more specific you can be in your language, in your marketing, in your messaging, in your storytelling of and then you come home from the kids and like there's dirt all over and blah blah blah, and this happens. You can tell stories and situations that they're going to be like, yeah, that's totally my life. And now you've got them, right? Now they're resonating with you. They hear you. They're like, they feel like, oh, you get me. And when people feel like you understand them and their situation, they intuitively believe that you have the solution too. Whether you do or not, they will believe that you have the answer once they feel that you understand them better than they understand themselves. And the more clear you are on who your dream client is, the better a job you can do with that. Especially if you pick a dream client that you actually care about. So you're interested in getting to know everything about them. Hit subscribe, click the bell to get notified, tell your friends about this so that we spread the word. I appreciate you being here. Much love. Have an awesome day and life.